which is the only reason why I'd ever consider using crawling zombies, is because chat asked me to. I hate them, I think they suck, I think they just feed survivors time. I'm sorry to anybody who likes crawling zombies out there.
I can't believe chat finally managed to convince me to use crawling zombies. God, I'm such a hypocrite sometimes. Hello folks, Sinow here, your new home for everything Resident Evil Resistance, and today I am bringing you a gun-focused Spencer build. Now I have to thank and apologize to my chat on Twitch for this, because for a long time now I was talking mad about gun-focused builds in Spencer. I thought that they were only really good against new survivors. I thought they were kind of like OP on the first week when nobody knew how to play this game properly, but chat persisted. They said, no, it's good, and you should stick with it and give it a shot, and they kind of helped me get over my preconceptions. I like to pride myself as a person on being quite open-minded and giving things a chance. So I gave this a chance, and actually I really like this build. I think it's quite refreshing because a lot of the times I play with like very aggressive creature heavy, like buff heavy builds, and this is like a complete 180 to that, where I'm using mostly guns and stuff. So first of all, thank you very much to my Twitch chat for, you know, being patient with me and guiding me through a different way of playing. And yeah, like I said, I like to try and stay open-minded about these things and try out new stuff, and I'm going to share with you the results of me trying out something different, which is the bullet dispenser build. Also, thank you to Twitch chat for coming up with that name. I love it. It's great. So here is here is how you make the bullet dispenser build for Spencer. Let's talk about, first of all, your skills and their passives. When it comes to the disintegration field ultimate, I prefer the one where you spawn 2 fields and it lasts for twice as long. You can use the single field if you want. I find that the double field is just, I've said this before in a previous video, I find it's like a little bit more reliable in like catching out survivors, whereas the single field, although easier to place and technically quicker, sometimes survivors will just have an easy time getting out of it. So I prefer the double field. When it comes to your passive for Umbrella Tech, now this is slightly up to personal preference. A lot of you will see that I'm using lockdown traps in my deck and think, oh, don't you want to use Deadbolt so that you constantly lock everything on the map to level 3 and like waste tons of the survivor's time? You can if you want to. This also does lower EIS cooldowns whenever you use a skill card. But I actually find I'm preferring Defense System at the moment. A, because those games where you catch out survivors who are rushing too hard and they forget about decoy puzzle pieces, etc., can waste a lot of their time. Bear in mind as well, in areas 2 and 3, having longer to deactivate security devices and having more biocore HP causes the survivors to stand in the same position for longer, so it's easier to interrupt them with guns and stuff. I know that Deadbolt means they're standing in front of doors for longer as well, but I find that Defense System is becoming quite useful, and also because you aren't immediately locking all doors to level 3, you can use Spencer's passive recharge here, where every time you lock a door or switch off a light you get energy back. You can keep using this to lock doors to keep getting energy, whereas with Deadbolt, sometimes if you lock everything to level 3, you can't use the doors for energy anymore, so it kind of gets rid of some of your energy economy. So I personally prefer Defense System, but you could use Deadbolt if you prefer that. Area 2 special card. We aren't using mods in this deck, apart from, funnily enough, the Area 2 mod here, Advanced OS, which, while this card's in your hand, if you have 6 more units of bioenergy, your EIS cooldown is greatly decreased. This can be really nice, for instance, in Area 3 of the research facility, if you want to keep fiddling around with the elevator and things like that. It only costs 3 as well, so if you need to get rid of it from your hand, it's also not too much of a penalty. So Advanced OS mod is for your Area 2 card. Area 3 card, I use Hypercharge. Hypercharge is really nice if you want to set down a couple of traps and then start using a gun. It's really easy to use Hypercharge. It's not like Overcharge where you can accidentally like kind of fudge things up. It's a little bit more idiot proof, and it's pretty much always useful in some regard, Hypercharge. So we are using Hypercharge for Area 3. Moving on to your equipment. So I initially had shock absorbers in this slot here, which makes it so that your camera control is greatly improved while you're under attack. But I found that a lot of the time I was just losing the camera anyway, and I wasn't getting a lot of benefit. Like, I wasn't shooting that much more bullets into survivors when I was using shock absorbers, even though like occasionally it was nice to sort of like chunk them down slightly. The cameras go out so quickly that it kind of wasn't really worth it. So I have opted for large caliber barrel 2, which makes your firearm damage go up. In particular, you'll notice this most on your high caliber rifle that we're using in this build. Machine guns also do more, but the high caliber rifle gets quite a nice increase from this. And then to complement that, we're using Cooling Fan 3. This greatly decreases the time it takes for a disabled camera to auto recover, which is very important in this build because sometimes you really need the cameras in certain positions to do anything. And this works quite nicely, you'll definitely notice it. And then we're using electric cables 2 and 3, which increases your EIS activation speed. So there's two reasons why we're using electric cables rather than EIS cooldown, which some of you might thought was the play here. And of course, if you prefer this, you can use this for more energy. But the reason why we're using electric cables is A, so that we can blow up traps a little bit quicker to try and catch survivors off guard. If you don't have these, it's very difficult to blow up a mine and do damage to survivors if they're paying attention. Another reason why we're doing this is that it helps you, I believe, I'm going off what chat told me, it helps you load up guns quicker into your cameras, and sometimes that little bit extra kind of quicker load up for a gun and a camera is the difference between getting off an immobilizing shot and leading into a disintegration field play, or having the camera be shot out while you're loading up the gun, and then you like lose the energy, you give the survivors time, and it's just generally kind of a real disadvantage. So that's why I'm going for EIS activation speed here. Also, it's quite cheap as well. You could play around with this and change it if you want to, or maybe make it so that you're using large caliber barrel 3, but I find that this just makes you a little bit more reliable at getting off those traps and those gun plays, which is quite important for this build because you can be shut down in quite frustrating ways sometimes, so this helps prevent that. As for the deck itself, we gotta address the elephant in the room. Yes, I did talk smack about them in my last video, but we are using crawling zombies. Crawling zombies, you put them around corners or you put them on top of traps, and it makes it so that the survivors need a little bit more time to disable traps, and this gives you enough time sometimes to blow up a high explosive landmine, which will do quite a lot of damage to survivors, and it will knock them back, and if you're particularly fast, you can take advantage of their knockback animation to then start shooting them. You can, of course, feed survivors time. Also, as always with Crawling Zombie, a good card to cycle through your deck so that you can get to certain cards quicker that you want without taking up any bioenergy. To complement this, we are using immobilizing rounds. This is like a kind of almost no-brainer for Spencer because the immobilizing into D-field combo is so strong. You'll see it in the footage coming up. This wins you games. It really it turns the tide from like kind of doing okay to like now I'm winning a lot of the time if you set this up properly. I am using lockdown traps because although I'm not using the deadbolt passive, it does help slow the survivors down a little bit without making the doors unusable for generating bioenergy. So I still find that lockdown trap is quite useful. We're using quick draw because sometimes you need to get to your guns faster in certain situations, or you might want to get to your mobilizing rounds if you have your ultimate ready. For the guns, so we're using 3 guns here. I initially had the build with only 2 and I was using discount, but I find that having 3 guns is a nice amount. We're using the machine gun, so the machine gun combos really nicely either with immobilizing rounds or with leg hold trap if you manage to get that off. A lot of the time if they step into a leg hold trap and you use the machine gun quite quickly, it's a guaranteed down. You'll be able to do tons of damage to survivors super easily. There's also high caliber rifle here. High caliber rifle gets a lot of benefit from the barrel that we're using. Do bear in mind that you do more damage to survivors if you shoot them in the head rather than the body, and in particular with high caliber rifle, you can get like a really nice bonus if you're good at this. Quite kind of skill dependent again. If you can clip survivors with this, you can do a really nice chunk of damage, but It is skill dependent. It's easy to miss with this. Don't forget that you can zoom in with your cameras. I find that this helps to make sure I hit with my machine gun so that there's not too much kind of wobble or recoil. Same with high caliber. Sometimes that ability to zoom in with a camera helps you guarantee a hit, so make sure you don't forget about that. And we're using turret rifles. So unfortunately with the guns, they now only take off 3 seconds per hit rather than 5. This build has just been nerfed as of like a day or so ago of me making this video. So you'll find that unfortunately turret rifle in particular is no longer as economical as it used to be for taking off survivors' time. I think they get something back like 15 seconds for taking out a camera with a turret rifle on it. It is useful for harassing survivors into running into areas that might have traps in it and stuff, and generally doing a bit of damage. But you now have to be a lot more careful with how you use turret rifle, because if they take it out too quickly, it's kind of not really been very useful for you. Like if you think about the math here, you need to hit them like 5 times to take off 15 seconds, and then if they take out turret rifle, they will get that time back. But obviously you're doing damage with the turret rifle and you don't have to like look through the camera the entire time. So they have nerfed this in particular quite hard, I would say, but it still has use. It's just it's more psychological and damage based use as opposed to taking off time from the survivors, where you can't really rely on this to like take off 20 seconds without you really trying anymore. Conversely though, they have made the tracking of it a little bit faster than it used to be, so it's a bit better at guaranteeing hits. I also am using Electromagnetic Shield for this build. This should be quite obvious. You might want to pair this, for instance, with the turret rifle so they can't take it out as quickly. You will need to use the shield quite a lot against teams that know what they're doing, and in particular a lot of survivors now. One of my greatest criticisms of this gun Spencer type gameplay was that survivors that know what they're doing will just take out cameras over and over. It's really easy for them to do that and shut you down a lot, so you will need the shield more than a creature heavy build to try and make sure that certain cameras are available when you need them. Sometimes it's useful for buying time if you need to quickly switch to other cameras to get energy after using this and then use a gun. Hopefully though you'll have enough energy stored up so that you can go from the shield into using something like a gun, but obviously this is pretty important. And combined with the cooling fans to get your cameras back quicker, although it is frustrating to lose cameras when you need them most, you do have a kind of better ability to claw your way back in those situations than other builds do. So bear in there even if you are against a very annoying 4-stack team that are all using Matildas, because you can win in those situations, and you'll see in the footage coming up that I do get some victories against some pretty good teams. But yes, a lot of combo potential with this build. And I'll discuss that a little bit in the pros and cons coming up. A lot of immobilizing into D fields or immobilizing into guns and downs and things like that. But why not see for yourself with the footage that I've recorded for you, and then we'll discuss the pros and cons on the other side. Enjoy. Okay, looks like we're up against a fairly decently ranked team. January's going to be a pain, but then January's always a pain. Tyrone's ultimate can also be annoying for this build.
Unjust travesty done to me by time, and I will rule over all mankind.
Spencer's ability to get energy back particularly shines in Area 1. Oh, this light switch is so awkward to get to, I swear.
You will need to explore to unlock this.
I've got more than I need
luck.
now. I'll just put the turret rifle here. Turret rifle has become kind of a risky choice with the update, unfortunately. If they shoot it out like they just did, they get 15 seconds back, which is a lot of time. So with the moderate increases to EIS activation speed, you'll find that
Go ahead, take
your explosive traps are a lot more reliable to use now, which is nice. Okay, just keep locking stuff. I'm like harassing them out there, but Martin here has managed to run off, so I need to harass him because a lot of my parts are actually on this side of the map with this preset, which isn't good. I'll put a lockdown trap in case I get lucky, but something tells me he won't stumble into that. He's being very cautious here and putting the piece back and going to help them, but because of my damage increase there, that headshot just completely whomped him. was gonna get some energy back. I'm a bit slow here. I put a shield on, so I'm... Yeah, she's gonna have to just look at me for the time being.
No, I don't think I will allow you that.
In these situations, I'm not always 100% sure if I should, like,
You
just
cannot blind
give
your
up on the
God.
camera immediately.
A child could have found
Or if I should
that.
play to just waste time. Probably should just give up, honestly. But yeah, January is a nightmare for this build, as you would imagine. Although, she's a nightmare for most builds, let's be real. Probably not a good idea with my crawling trap there.
Let's do this.
Yeah, he's used his ultimate, which is a pain.
This place has so many doors.
See if I can stun her so she just can't help a little bit. There we go, and that managed to get off the explosive traps, which is good. They don't have the security
is the
part
sound of another path closing for you.
for this area, or the card key. Not the card key, what am I talking about? Sorry, I've just woken up. I think you can tell. They don't have the key item over here. I think they picked up a fake and they got cocky about it, which happens so frequently, it's crazy. Which is why I've started to prefer using the fake part and the biocore health and all that jazz
I would let you have this, did you?
over at level 3 locks,
Brave
because
rats
it
trying
just
to
gives you the
outsmart their
ability
captor. It is futile, but it locked.
to constantly lock doors for energy, but also it's like it works surprisingly well against like cocky survivors.
Just as I planned.
Not much I could do there if they start to hack me, but Martin's down, which is
I
wasting
will
more time.
not grant you the luxury of choice.
Just kind of trying to slow him down here. I'm really finding that sometimes with turrets and stuff, it's hard not to lose time now. Gun dispenser, or bullet dispenser as I'm calling him, used to be very good for that. Just like being very safe in a lot of ways for
Take it
time.
now. It is so
Too close.
much more dangerous ahead.
See if I can get a good immobilizing off here. Yes. It just makes them so much more likely to like make mistakes or not be able to help each other out when they need it in those situations. He's shooting me though.
I might be able to see something.
They've definitely nerfed this build recently. I can kind of see why. I think against newer survivors in particular, it's like very punitive. So I'm gonna have to play around the fact that they might come back in here. There's not much else I can do.
So many walk into the next test.
I just don't want them to get that supply zombie. Okay,
I shall learn more from a group.
so they managed to get past there with 3 minutes 46, which suggests to me that I'm giving them quite a lot of time, unfortunately. But with the nurse and stuff, they've just made it more
I
difficult.
hope you do not think you
I've got a little
managed
cheesy detonator play on this
against
preset
my
here for
will.
fun.
I want you to suffer longer.
But in general, I took out a lot of the detonators because I was finding them a bit... It kind of just fed time. It'd be nice if I could set up some more traps and stuff here. So you'll get used to like where light switch spawns are and stuff for energy. It just takes a while. Oh, they were a little bit quicker than I thought. I'm really bullying this Martin. It feels like I'm just going for him. He does have the lowest HP. And he can disable traps, so...
Reach towards you.
You'll find with this build that sometimes things kind of spiral out of control for the survivors. Kind of just lightly harassing Tyrone there. Yeah, these guys are super on the ball though. They know what they're doing. It's a good team. If you put a shield on a camera, by the way, it does get rid of the cost down, just so you know.
Take this key. There is more testing to be done.
Crawling zombie. I can't believe how often that works, by the way, even now. Oh, I only got her. I was hoping I would get the two of them.
I have
Yeah.
eyes everywhere. I will find you again.
I need to set up a good... You'll find sometimes with this build against a good team that, like, setting up your ultimate play is how you win. How you, like, really change the tide to, like, making yourself the victor. There's just not a lot I can do at the moment here. This is kind of your worst nightmare for this build, though, is like if they split up and they like just take down your cameras immediately. Try and like harass them outside if possible. Being able to get your cameras back quicker is quite nice for that.
I savor the taste of stolen hope. You will not live much longer. They will see to that.
Oh my god, they just keep taking out that one camera. That's so annoying. I'll put the Ivy here just to harass them. They might not have a lot of like torches and stuff because I'm playing this build, so they probably aren't like prepared for that. Ah, they're healing up here. That's not what I needed, so... Oh, I shouldn't have done that. That's a shame. Can I? Can I? Nah, the angle's bad. I don't want to chance it. Because I fired off fields into people who aren't like sufficiently immobilizing shotted, and it's just been a nightmare before. So I'm gonna try and like be careful with it, but I am losing time on it.
Allow the fear to consume you.
Yeah, it really sucks when you change to a camera and they take out like right when you change. Look how much time they're getting back. It's kind of ridiculous. See if I can harass them with a little. Nice. That's what I needed. This could be good for me. Oh, she used the spray play, but it didn't get Valerie. That's what I'm going to try and do. Yes, I got Martin a little bit. This camera's quite far away, so they're struggling to take it out. Yeah, now she's realized.
Activated.
I need to get the energy back if I'm going to do anything with that camera. Yes! Oh, this could be good for me, actually.
A better death than your peer.
So that's minus
but
30.
Disappointing nonetheless.
Where's the other... Oh shit, where's the other light switch? Too slow. No, she's back there. He's getting picked up, right? Damn, if they take out a camera with a turret on it now, it's like almost not worth it, really. Because it only takes off 3 seconds per shot now. Oh, perfect. She's down.
Faster. Your breathing quicker.
So with the little damage booster that we've given that, it's like very hard for a solo survivor to do anything against you. When you have high caliber and you get headshots and stuff, like you take them down so quickly.
Not this shit again.
Yeah, okay, I shouldn't have done that. It was too obvious. I'm basically gonna just harass her here. They're gonna have to come back to save their friend if they want to get through this. Otherwise, they have to wait for their 2 minutes to expire and just all stand on the exit.
To control your final breath.
Nope, didn't mean to do that.
I'm coming to get you.
Meant to do this instead. Tyrone DC'd, which is unfortunate. I think there's just a bug going around at the moment. Or he decided like he didn't want any more to do with this.
I am waiting for your death. Not long now.
Now I'm reckoning that they'll start to realize that they're just like losing time. Are they really not bothering? It's very lazy of them.
Even with inferior subjects, I expected better than this.
Honestly, I would have went back and tried to help my friend by this point. Maybe friend is a strong word. Like, look how much time they lost because they couldn't be bothered. Do you know what I mean?
Your mortality disgusts me.
Look at them both like emoting there. You know, if they're not standing on the exit line by the time this is up, they'll lose.
If you do not go faster, then I will be forced to terminate this experiment, and you with it.
I can get an immobilizing shot, maybe? Yes! Oh, what a win! Oh, that was amazing! So if you have a mobilizing shot on you,
Not all dead.
it doesn't count as you standing on the exit
For
gate.
the time being, but I will have to run the test again.
Because you're like it counts the same as you having like a zombie biting you, so you're not technically ready to move to the next area. Oh, that was so good. That was so good. Those guys were very cocky. They should have went back to save Valerie. It's a shame about the Tyrone desync. It's been happening quite a lot lately, but oh, that was perfect. Okay, so we got research facility here. So I'm using a preset that I made for, I think it was for Alex actually, where I have a lot of highly explosive landmines in front of certain doors and stuff. It's pretty basic stuff in general, but I would recommend something along these lines just to help you kind of stall the survivors and get ready to blow them up when they go through a door. Also, you'll notice that I don't have the doors locked to level 3, so there's the ability to generate energy off of them a couple of times by locking them myself, which is quite important, and it's why I prefer the defense system passive for Umbrella Tech. I prefer being able to repeatedly lock doors as like a, part of me, like a source of time, quite frankly. Okay. Now that I've got that out of the way, what have we got here? A rank 8 January. Rank 38 Valerie is going to be a pain in the ass. Samuel, against this build, not as strong. Although, trying to shoot him with auto turrets when he's like dashing around is a pain in the ass. But he's not as strong against this build.
It is my right to become a god. You should be pleased to sacrifice yourself.
If you're finding flicking between cameras and stuff is a pain in the ass to try and get time, then don't worry. It requires practice. I could be faster with it myself, if I'm being honest. They've already... Wow, they were quick with that, but she got blown up, so... She was fast, but she maybe wasn't very effective. In fact, that January almost went down there, which is kind of bonkers. Oh, I was hoping I could get the shield up in time there, just to annoy her, but never mind. Yeah, so the highly explosive mine has such a large blast radius, so you can really punish survivors. She's down. You'll find that the extra damage really comes into effect more on your high caliber than necessarily the machine gun. It's hard to notice it with the machine gun. This guy's standing completely still with 2 of the items. He's down. Bit cocky there. So I'm going to put a trap. Hiding traps underneath already down survivors is a very, very clever way of using them, in my opinion. You'll find that often their teammates, unless they're communicating, don't quite expect it. The only problem is, of course, is that they can crawl away, but there's ways of playing around that. As he has 2 of the items needed, I basically just need to play around him. And things will get easy for me. There's my turret. The turrets are a little bit faster than they used to be at tracking, but you take off less time now. He's down again. Nearly escaped though. I've only got 7 bullets here.
Let them chill your heart.
With the increased EIS activation time as well, it's quite nice how quickly you can blow up a highly explosive when you need it. Unfortunately, they're going to be able to get him back up again, but they're not doing very well in general. They do seem to be communicating with each other. They are playing well. Chances are they're going to try and go for this. So the one reason why I keep flicking off of cameras when they become relevant is that you kind of... You give the survivors a really, like, big tell if you're on a camera that you're about to start using. So I try not to be on a camera more than I absolutely have to, because it's very obvious, that red light with the name above it, if you're about to start using a camera. Okay, I just need to use EIS for bioenergy here, because they've already got through it. Good team.
A modest success.
Probably communicating with each other, which is a good test for this build. But they only have 4 minutes 30 on the clock at the end of Area 1, which I would consider quite good.
The results are fascinating. Continue.
There's a lot of cameras in this area,
Elevated to purpose by my touch.
so I actually quite like defending this area sometimes for Yorick with this build, because there's just so many different ways that you can like look at the survivors. They don't just like take out one camera and then that's it. Okay. The nice thing about Spencer is that even if your skill costs get increased, you can kind of get back your energy so quickly that it's not the end of the world, really. Like, yes, I'm on 0 energy and I just spent all of it on like absolute nonsense, but with this build, a lot of the time you're just kind of sitting there waiting anyway, so... Just playing very cautiously, that one. I choose my high caliber.
All I need is a moment.
Martins go down so fast with this build, it's kind of unreal how fast Martin goes down.
Trying to outsmart their captor. Take the car. Be swift with it. There is much for us to do today.
Okay, I know what I have to do.
God,
Unfortunate.
barbaric. But
I'd already like
effective.
committed to loading that up in my mind before I even like switched to that camera. That was a bad play by me there. Kind of just fed them a lot of time. Unfortunately, with the nerf to auto turrets now, it's really easy to feed survivors time with it. It's not as good as it used to be by any means. So it is the January that has the key item. It's important to make a mental note of that.
What a dick.
What a dick. So like, I could do an immobilizing play against these guys, but that's not the one with the key item, you know what I mean? Okay, so they're coming to the morgue next. That was the most like obvious fucking disintegration field play ever. Whoa, she got out super fast there.
Heart beats faster.
Martin's down.
Your breathing quickens. The virus stirs inside you.
Ah, so close. You have to be careful because when they're trying to get through a door, they have a lot of iframes that activate. Oh, nicely played, Valerie, sorry. Nice! Got her down with a cheeky little shot there. Gonna use the turret to keep up the pressure. You'll find that a lot of the time turrets cause survivors to like panic a bit.
Your peer, but disappointing nonetheless. Son of a...
Nice, they went into the lockdown trap there just to waste a little bit of extra time.
You didn't think I would let you have this, did you?
I've missed out on a bit of energy because I'm too busy looking at survivors though. Yeah, so they're playing against me now. You'll find that most survivors are smart enough to try and counter this build. It's not like the old days where you'd use a gun against them, they'd be like, what the fuck? This is impossible.
Your struggle is not unique.
Those halcyon days.
Oh, I do enjoy it.
Switch off that camera as quick as I can. Yeah, they've shut me down here. Good team. I needed to get Grim. She must like have some crazy ability to mash F that January. She got out of that immobilizing field, or the immobilizing shot, pardon me, so quickly. That was crazy. Almost like she had like a kind of auto key presser, do you know what I mean?
You are not sufficiently afraid yet. Very well. Proceed to the next
I don't need this
area,
advanced.
and I shall
Unfortunately,
see what I
Area
can do
3
about
of Research Facility for Ozwell is like really bad when it comes to his passive. There isn't a lot you can do to like get energy back apart from constantly fiddle with that elevator, which is fun, don't get me wrong,
Not
but
a very sporting weapon, but this is no safari.
there's like a something with a collision. There's like a wall to the right of that camera that's really easy to accidentally hit, and I just completely fucked that up there. It's unfortunate. Oh dear, that zombie is not very well placed at all. I'll put the shield on here, try and get some energy back from this door though.
Out of ammo.
Shit,
I only hit those two.
where's my ammo?
Man, this January is like so lucky. Cut them off with the elevator if I can. Okay, see if I can get this back up maybe for a D-field play. Because they're pretty trapped here.
I am waiting for you.
Two down?
Death. Not even close.
And I can shoot through this. So, yeah. Very nice, very nice. Now, if I can make this area hell for a certain individual, that's a lot of time they just lost. Shit, I need energy.
Like when the virus struggles to control your final
quick.
breath.
Yeah, he ran away. Damn, that was very strong though. Put this back up again to annoy them. Do you see how important it is to do those D-field plays correctly though? Like, damn. It really changes the tide of a game if you're losing. Okay, yeah, they're gonna use... They might not expect me to actually be here.
I savor the taste of stolen hope.
So I've changed away from having more control when I'm getting shot at, because I found it just wasn't really working for me. Oh, I just switched away from the grenade launcher, that's a shame. I used to use the equipment where if you're...
Always in the way.
You stand.
Sorry, I got a little bit distracted there.
Edge of come into
I used to use the equipment where if you're getting shot you have more control, but I just found it like wasn't really doing a whole lot for me in the long run. Like, yes, sometimes it's nice, but... Okay, roll the music. She stood in the trap. Guess what happens when you stand on light bulb traps? That's right. They're in big trouble now.
Relish the final breaths.
Lock the door. Yes! Try not to feed them any more time.
You cannot blind a god.
Oh, they're fighting though. They're really fighting for this. I have another D-field play coming up, which should help me get the win, I think, here.
Talk. Tick tock. Do not imagine you will succeed.
Yeah, this is it.
The icy
No, 25 seconds though.
towards you.
Getting a little bit too cocky, perhaps,
Chill
Sinow.
your heart.
Nice. That's what I needed.
These may be your
Okay, here we go. Here we go.
relish the final breaths.
It's a lot harder now with the nerfs to like guarantee that the survivors don't get any time back though. With the gun build before, it used to be like really easy to just starve them and of time and then like burn it off with cameras and guns.
Fast as you could. But it wasn't fast enough now, was it?
Good game. Good team. Two great games there, I hope you'll agree, but there's already been quite a lot of time on this video as it is, so let's quickly wrap up the pros and cons for the bullet dispenser build. The pros are, you can really snowball after you down a survivor with this build. I find a lot of the time when I do my most kind of time damage to the team, or when I really stop them in their tracks, is when one survivor is down and then I can use that survivor as bait to lure the other ones in so that I can drop a D-field on them or gun them down, or just generally I find that it tends to snowball quite hard with this build. Another pro of this build is that you're not very reliant on zombie AI. We've all had experiences of zombies getting trapped behind doors or running off in weird directions. With this build, the only thing that can occasionally screw you over in terms of AI, apart from crawling zombies I guess, is the turret. Sometimes the turret's choice of target is a little suspect. But it's nice not to have to rely on zombie AI too much with this. It's very much up to you how well you do a lot of the time, if you have kind of quick reactions and you can shoot properly and have good aim. So that's quite nice. Also, another pro is that survivors with slow reactions are easy prey. So survivors have to play quite well in order to do well against this build. In particular, they have to be able to look down on the floor for traps and then look up for cameras quite quickly. They have to coordinate well, try not to run off by themselves. I generally find that if the survivors are quite slow or maybe not the best, then you can really gun them down quite easily. So this build requires a kind of level of skill from the survivors, if you're good at it, for them to be able to play well against you as well. So that's why we use things like crawling zombies and traps, so that their eyesight has to be diverted from cameras a lot, and it just generally, I think, requires survivors to play well against you to have a chance to win. For the cons, one of the biggest cons is that they recently nerfed this build. I can't believe I decided to make my next build a gun Spencer build, and then like the day after, or I think it was like later that night, they nerfed this. So as I mentioned before, gunshots now only take off 3 seconds per shot rather than 5 seconds. They've also made it so that traps, if you set off multiple traps on a survivor at once, it doesn't take off 5 seconds per trap. It only takes off 5 seconds for that one kind of general large explosion. This was to counter things like the time bomb preset, where you would set up loads of tracker mines and then blow them all up at once, and the survivors would lose like 2 minutes, which was kind of exploitative. So I agree with that, but it does make it a lot harder with this build to like deny them of time, or to just like shave off as many seconds as possible. So that's unfortunate that that happened, although honestly you can still win, as you've just seen me do. It's just you have to play a little bit better, and the matches are now closer. Another con is that this is a very kind of player skill dependent build. You have to be able to flick cameras for time and shoot survivors reliably, and if you find that difficult for whatever reason, I know a lot of people find that the camera movement maybe is a little bit gross for them, especially on mouse and keyboard, then you won't be able to do this build very well, and you might prefer something that's a little more hands-off. But you know, like I said, you're also less reliant on zombie AI, so some people view this as a pro because it's more about their own skill. Some people view this as a con because there's a lot of pressure on you to be able to do a lot of movements and actions in a very short space of time before they shoot out certain cameras. And speaking of shooting out cameras, the last con is January and her Matilda-wielding cronies will bully you quite a lot of the time if you're against survivors who are coordinated and know what they're doing. You will have games where they'll constantly shoot out cameras over and over, which can be frustrating, and you need to kind of dig your heels in and learn how to play against this as best as you can to have a chance to succeed. You need to be able to use shields at the right time. Timing is key for these situations, because you will get a shield on your camera after it has been shot out, so sometimes that's the best opportunity to do things, and that's why we take that equipment that allows cameras to come back online quicker. Remember that you can mash your keys or your buttons to make a camera come back online faster as well. Very important sometimes for this build if you need a certain camera in a pinch. Use your shields as much as you can. Try and use immobilizing shots so that they can't just keep shooting at the cameras or to interrupt them from doing certain objectives. And one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give as well here is try not to be on a camera for longer than you need to be, because if a camera is red and has your name above it when you're looking through it, it's a huge indicator to survivors that you're trying to use it for something. So being able to swap to a different camera and then swap to the camera that you actually want to use at the last minute and load up a gun and then fire is often the difference between getting off some bullets or giving them the tell that you're about to use the camera, and then they just take it out easily. So again, you need to think from the survivor's point of view psychologically to try and beat these situations where the survivors will bully you with Matildas over and over. It's very frustrating, I know, but you can win. You just gotta dig your heels in and time things correctly. That has been the Bullet Dispenser build guide video. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed listening to chat and pushing myself to play in a different playstyle and trying to be open-minded about it and giving it a chance. And I think I've learned something about this game, so I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share it all with you. I wish you luck in your upcoming Resident Evil Resistance games, and this has been Sinow. Take care and goodbye.